Coleman. Obviously, he's been covering the Mets. He's the dean of it now. FAN in New York, one of the great guys. I love him, and he says hello. Eddie, thank you. Always a pleasure. Were the Mets put in a no-choice situation with firing Beltran? Let's start there.
Yeah, no, I think so, Chris. I think that they probably could have done a little bit better homework from November through January, and asked some more questions. But I think when the news came down from Manfred and MLB, I really think they had no choice at that point. They had to turn the page, let him go, and thus we have a new manager today.
All right, now, before we get into your impressions of Luis, let's talk about the idea that they did not go in the direction, even a phone call of a veteran following what happened with Beltran. Buck, Dusty, Gibbons, you name it. Mm-hmm. That surprised you at all or no?
It did a little bit, honestly, because I thought the opportunity was there to do that, and I don't think that anyone would have looked askance at it. I'm not sure how they felt about it, but what came through today when they were talking to us is they wanted familiarity. They had familiarity with Luis Rojas. He was, he was on the staff last year. He's very familiar with these players. Players are familiar with him. He was rated very highly the last time around. Rojas, I think, either number 2 or number 3, right behind Beltran. The first interview phases around when Beltran got the job. So, I think it made sense in that regard. I would have liked to have seen them go out and talk to a Dusty and that, but I think they felt with the time that they had left before spring training, and it is short, getting somebody else in, getting them up to speed, et cetera, with everything that they wanted to accomplish before spring training was going to be too difficult. Rojas already had a head start on that. He was working down with the staff as is comprised right now.
Well, think about it, Eddie. I can't think of a more nondescript guy. I don't think AMFA knows who he is. I mean, this is a guy that, they don't know that much about him. He wasn't anywhere else. I mean, I've never heard him talk to the media. Listen, good for him, good opportunity, but I know nothing about the guy. I know he's Felipe's son, Felipe Alou, Moses
right.
Malou's brother, but outside of that, I know very little about him. Now, you travel with the team, so you probably got a much better feel. What is your immediate impression? What do you think?
I like Luis, and I think he'll do very well in this job. I do think he's going to grab this and run with it. At least I hope so. Anyway, he's a guy who was managed in the Mets system. He's been at St. Lucie, Binghamton, et cetera, so he's come up through the system. He's also managed in the Dominican Winter League, so he has managed big leaguers there. He's well thought of by the players. He's a baseball guy, baseball sponge. I mean, you mentioned the Alou family, and that's Felipe is his dad. Moises is his half-brother. So he comes from good lineage. There's no question about that. He's a smart guy. He's a good baseball guy. I always spoke to him a lot when he was the minor league manager, particularly at Binghamton. He really is a terrific guy. And I think he will do well in this situation. I think the players will relate to him well. I know that he brings he brings hard work to the table. He is a hard worker. He's one of the first guys in, last guys out, those kind of guys. So I think Rojas will be fine. His name, I agree with you. Listen, a lot of people don't know. People will be scratching their head. I'm sure you're going to go through that process, but I think he's going to do okay.
All right, running a big ball game in the middle of the summertime against the Yankees. Who's going to be his Jim Riggleman or his right-hand man?
Well, it appears that the staff is going to remain intact. Now, they have to get a quality control coach unless they morph into something else and bring in somebody else in a different capacity. But Hensley Mullins will be
So Mullins is going to still do it. Okay, gotcha.
I believe so, yeah. I think that they are going to what was interesting to me, and we haven't talked to Luis. He was not here today. They're still trying to hammer out a contract. I don't think that's finalized at this point. They've just made the decision. But Moises was up for, several openings last year, and I think he declined an interview, maybe with San Diego. I'm not sure, but it was interesting to me whether he would bring his half-brother, along for the ride here, because I think Moises is interested in getting back into the game, not necessarily as the manager, maybe, a bench coach or something like that, and that possibility could exist. I believe that Hensley Mullins is going to stay, and I think everybody else is going to remain intact.
All right, Mullins now working for Beltran, probably a future Hall of Famer. everybody, Yankee and Astro and all that. That's one thing. Now he's working for a guy he's never heard of. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a great point. Listen, I think one thing that Beltran had going for him, despite the fact he had never managed before, is the fact that he had instant credibility in that clubhouse because of his playing career. Everybody knew Carlos Beltran, knew what he had accomplished. That's gone, and Luis Rojas doesn't have that. No matter how long and how well he's done at the jobs that he's had, or how long he's been around baseball, he doesn't have that instant credibility that Beltran would have. Like I said, I think the players genuinely like him. That's the sense I always got being around him and seeing him in spring training every year. I think the players, warm up to him and respect him. So I don't think he's going to have big hurdles to climb in that regard. As far as in-game decisions on the major league level, well, that's something we're going to have to watch as the season goes along. I don't think any of us can tell at this point in time what kind of manager he's going to be on the major league level. But I do know that he's pretty savvy. He's a smart guy, works hard, and I think it will all come together for Luis. I think there'll be, by the end, when people get to know him a little bit better, I think there'll be a lot of people rooting for him to do well.
Well, bottom line is then, after all this mess, you think the Mets worked out and came out of the chute okay, came out of the woods okay after all this mess here in the last couple of weeks. That's the long and short of it from Eddie Coleman's perspective, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. Again, now, Met fans, are they going to be happy with this? Well, Met fans don't get happy with a lot of stuff, and they probably will not be overwhelmed by this decision. They probably, wanted them to go out and talk to Dusty Baker and Buck Showalter, et cetera, and at least, test the waters in that regard. But I think, proof is in the pudding. It's up to Luis Rojas now. He is going to be the manager. And time is going to tell as the season goes on here whether it's going to be successful or not. I don't think it's too big a job for him to handle. Let's put it that way. If I felt that way, I would tell you. I think he can handle this. How well or how good he's going to be at it, I can't tell you at this point, Chris, until we actually get into the season and see how it works and the decisions and whether they all come together.
Robert Mitchum is our Eddie Coleman. Looks exactly like him. Always a pleasure, Eddie. Good to have you with us. We will talk soon. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
All right, Chris. Good talking to you.